Hey everybody, this is Brandon Ford and welcome to the Blind Rage podcast. For this week's TV episode, we are doing another Tales from the Crypt. This one is, I'm sure, one of many fan favorites. It is Larry Drake and Mary Ellen Trainor in And All Through the House. And I said early on that I didn't want to do this one because it is a fan favorite and I wanted to focus more on some of the lesser known, more overlooked episodes. And since I've done that, we can do And All Through the House. And we can also do some lesser known ones and some other fan favorites too. We could do it all on the Blind Rage podcast. The sky is the limit. And so if you want to watch along, I'm sure you can find this everywhere. So, and yeah, I'm using the DVD, which does not come, this season does not have the intro. It is seen only on the opening menu. And while I was getting everything set up for the episode, I left the DVD running in the background, and the second time the menu comes up, I never noticed this before because I never, lingered on the menu. But the second time the opening plays, the Crypt-Keeper says something like, "That's it. Choose carefully. You don't want to make a grave error," or something like that. Then a few seconds later, he says, "What are you waiting for? Do something already." And then after a few seconds, he says, "Well, if you need me, I'll be upstairs taking a blood bath." And I thought that was funny. As a fan of the Crypt-Keeper character and John Kassir, I don't really think that there's anything he can do that wouldn't amuse me. Anyway, so let's get the plugs out of the way so that we can get into And All Through the House. Please check out my books in paperback and Kindle editions on Amazon by going to Amazon.com or the Amazon app, typing in Brandon Ford in the search box, and like I said, you'll see my titles in paperback and Kindle editions. You will also see my author page. You can also find me on Audible by going to audible.com or the Audible app, and you'll find several of my books in audio format. You can also follow me on Instagram at writer Brandon Ford. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, recommendations, requests for movies or episodes of Tales from the Crypt you'd like me to do, as long as it's not yellow. I hate that episode. Yeah, feel free or the Western ones. I don't know if that's the same one, but there's a couple of Westerns, and there's a couple that deal with war, and or anything from season 7. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, feel free to email me directly at blindragepod81@gmail.com. I think it's time we light this candle and we get into And All Through the House. So if you're watching with me, we are going to begin in 3, 2, 1, play. We have the Crypt-Keeper's grand introduction. And this is a guy in a suit, obviously. I always thought it was weird when the Crypt-Keeper was anything other than a puppet. Especially in the opening of Demon Knight, when he plays the director of the horror film, and you see him getting up and walking around, and it's clearly a guy in a suit and a mask, and it's just so off-putting. And here, I believe these are human hands. I can't see the episode now, and I haven't seen it in quite a while, but you see, I'm pretty sure human hands in in gloved white gloves going over the famous tome where all of the Crypt-Keeper's stories are held. One thing I have issues. Growing up, this was my number one with the gun episode, absolutely without question. It's one I've seen more times than I can count. But getting older, looking at it from a different perspective, there are some issues. There are some problems that I have with it. I think the main one is it's too short. It's about 20 minutes, and I believe that's with the intro, opening titles, and the end title sequence. And we have the Christmas song played in its entirety over the opening titles for the episode itself. The whole song. I mean, it's a beautiful song. It's a Christmas essential. Nat King Cole was wonderful, but we don't need the whole song. In the episode itself, there is very, very little dialogue, and there's very little story. I mean, it's just essentially the whole story is a wife kills her husband on Christmas Eve and is then attacked by an escaped mental patient dressed in a Santa Claus suit, and that's the gist of it. But because it's so much fun, you forget about all that stuff. And this is, I think, at least from what I've seen, one of Larry Drake's best performances. He was such a great character actor, and I don't think he was given his the respect that he deserves for being as talented as he was. And he has since passed away, as has Mary Ellen Trainor, who plays the wife. I don't know if she has a name. There's Marshall Bell of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and other stuff. This is clearly a dummy, because when he leans over and puts the... Wait. There you go. When he leans over to put the... it looked like a highball he was drinking, from what I remember. He leans over to put it on the table, and then it's clearly a fake head. And also, I don't know what this was supposed to be, or what the purpose of this the purpose of this was, but as she's sitting next to him, she ties a bag around his head that has a red ribbon attached to it. And this was like supposed to be, I guess, something that this kind of bag that you would find at Christmas, but it's not something that I've seen ever anywhere. But anyway, the bag clearly has holes in it, and it has to, because it's over his head for several minutes or several moments, but you could clearly see him breathing, and rapidly, because the bag is puffing in and out, in and out, in and out. So I would have told him, try to take shallow breaths, Marshall, but I guess he was panicking a little bit. That window is open way too much. Way too much for a blizzard going on outside. Oh, Elizabeth, that's her name. And that's the little girl is who plays Carrie is Lindsay Whitney Berry. That's a lot of Y's. And I'm not sure exactly what little Lindsay Whitney Berry is doing right now. But we're not exactly 100% sure why. I guess because he had money that she killed the husband, Joseph. He had money, so she killed him for that. And she left a very telling message on the answering machine of the man she's having an affair with, who is clearly a sleazebag, because he requests that if it's a woman leaving a message, that she leave her name, number, and measurements. And yeah, she's hitching her wagon to that star. So yeah, there's that. Um, I know that this is a remake of the first segment that is in the original 70s Tales from the Crypt movie from the UK with Joan Collins. I tried to watch that a few times and I couldn't get into it. It's been a very long time, but it just even and this is when I was a kid, and even then it seemed very, very dated. Um, and I also think it's interesting that she's planning on getting rid of him by just dumping him in a well that is right outside the house. How she thinks that nobody's gonna find him, I don't know. And this whole episode is clearly on a soundstage too. You can tell the snow is very fake. It's all completely powder, and the house itself looks like a set. And yeah, so now we get the all points bulletin on the radio about and it's the name of the town is Pleasantville. The Pleasantville Institute for the Criminally Insane. Larry Drake is so fucking great in this movie, and he's so menacing with the faces that he makes, and those rotten teeth definitely helped enhance his performance. And he only has one line: naughty or nice. And there's the keys. I know Mary Ellen Trainor has been in other stuff, but the only thing that I can remember off the top of my head is Death Becomes Her. Um, she is at a funeral and she asks Bruce Willis's character, who is an undertaker, what his secret was when it came to applying makeup to, I think, her aunt, who they just had a funeral for, and he just says spray paint. So Joseph wasn't quite dead. However, boot to the neck for a few seconds finishes the job. And there's that. When I was a kid, this was one of the go-to things that I would show to pretty much everybody who came to my house. If you came to my house, if you were a friend, a relative, a neighbor, you would have to sit down and watch this 20-minute episode, whether you liked it or not. You hear the jangle of the bells. And here we have Larry's entrance. And it's also quite comical, the noises that he makes. Especially when he falls, when she hits him with the back of the axe. And he falls outside the window, and when he lands, he goes, and that with the, oh. So, I mean, he does for sure add some comedy to this character. I think even still, it's frightening. That little moan right there, I always liked. And I mean, even as a kid, I remember, I mean, I knew that it never would have worked. I mean, I must have been a pretty smart kid, let me tell you. But I remember thinking to myself as a kid, when she decides that she's going to try to pin the murder of Joseph on the escaped mental patient by taking his axe and putting it in Joseph's head, that's not gonna work. Oh, yeah. The medical examiner will notice in about 3 seconds that there was another injury prior to the axe being plunged into his head. And the chances of her hitting the same mark are pretty remote, I would say. You know, where the tire swing. There it is. Coming through the window. And I love after she manages to knock him out with the back of the axe, she just closes the shutters and locks them like that's going to protect her. Uh, there we go. I also remember. I know he wasn't, but I also thought it was pretty cool because it was under my perception because I hadn't seen all the episodes. That I mean, when I was a kid, at the time, I believed that Larry Drake was. I thought he was the only actor who came back to do another episode of the show. But of course, we have Bill Sadler, and there's a couple of other character actors who came back to do different episodes. But I just remember this one and The Secret when Larry Drake plays the butler in that one. And that's like one of the only times that you actually see him play it straight. At least that I can remember. He's not all crazy or giggling a la Dr. Giggles, which is an criminally underrated horror comedy. And I stand by that. She does a lot of screaming in this episode. I mean, this the amount of screaming she does rivals Marilyn Burns in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I would say. And by the way, for a little girl who is just upstairs in not a very well, it's a big house, but the floors are not the ceiling's not that high. I mean, she doesn't hear a thing. She's a pretty sound sleeper. Yeah, she does a lot of talking to herself. That's primarily the where the lines are coming from. It's just her character talking to herself. I had to itch my eye, so if you hear something squeaky, that's the sunglasses I'm wearing. Um, yeah, she does a lot of talking to herself, and the few interactions that she has are with Joseph, Carrie, and the policeman who calls, and then dispatch when she calls. I also think it's funny too when she goes to look out the window. Yeah, she goes to look out the window, the back window where uh, Larry has fallen, and there's this the imprint is just perfect. It's ridiculous how perfect it is. And that axe to the head was hard enough to not only, lift Joseph's feet, but also slam the door. Either that or it was perfectly timed with the wind. And that snow, I just remember the snow being so fucking fake looking. It was not the detergent, clearly, that was used in A Christmas Story. Um, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to get out everything that I wanted to say about this episode because it's so short, but I think I spilled everything that I wanted to say already. No, I'm sure I have some other stuff to add. You know, I can't believe that they still make Killer Santa movies. I can't believe that they made as many Killer Santa movies as they have because so few of them are any good. And when I think of anything involving Killer Santa, anything that's good, I always think of this and I think of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that's about it. A lot of people like Christmas Evil, aka Better You Better Watch Out, rather. I just think it's kind of bleh. I know it's not supposed to be a horror movie or a slasher movie, that it's a psychological character study, but still, I just find it kind of bland. Oh, and then there's Game Over, aka Dial Code Santa Claus. That's a good one, but that's one that I was only able to listen to, not I wasn't able to watch. So I don't know how creepy the Santa Claus was. Here she's going for an Oscar. I love that the dispatch on the phone. He's there. Like she's like, really? Uh oh. She had to do a double take there. Uh, I mean, is this? I would think that, you know, despite the well, that this would be in a rural suburban area, not necessarily just like a house in the middle of nowhere, but that she would have neighbors. And but because of it's shot on a soundstage, it appears to be so remote, and you don't see glimpses of any other residences. So I think she's in the closet now. When she's in this fucking closet and he climbs up the ladder, oh, the look on his that's right here. The look on his face is so fucking scary with his that evil grin. And but she was under the assumption that he was going for Carrie's window with that tiny little short ladder. And he gives this look up to the window like that really was what he was doing, but he was really coming in there to get her. And she is good though, with all the screaming that she does. This is adorable though, that this little girl is trying to help him. That she thinks that she could haul him up. You know, if she knew where the gun was, and I'm pretty sure she did. I think she shuffled things around and moved it. She could have found it and just blew the door off. That would have worked. I've heard this suspense building music elsewhere. This is a great fucking ending. She's so proud. Here we go. There's one line. I have to say this really quickly. I know somebody who made a fan film out of this, and they made it a Silent Night, Deadly Night 6, where it was called Silent Night, Deadly Night 6 Scarred for Life. You might be able to find that on YouTube, but what they did was they joined this with the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I think they made it. It was supposed to be the little girl toward the very end of Silent Night, Deadly Night who opens the door at the orphanage and lets uh, Billy in. And this is supposed to be what happened to her years later. I think that's what the concept was. Okay, I'm glad I got that out in time. Anyway, so yeah, that was an author of the house. Thanks for staying with me till the bitter end as usual. And I hope you'll come back to join me for future TV and feature commentaries. So until next time, this is Brandon Ford wishing you all unpleasant dreams.